Hello, and welcome to episode number 12, the Randall Cunningham episode of The Checkdown, brought to you by The Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half, and you can follow me on Twitter at halfandhalf_TPL. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube at The Painted Lines and follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/ThePaintedLines. So let's get into it. We're here today to talk about breaking news about some restructured contracts for the Philadelphia Eagles. Late last night, the Eagles agreed to a restructuring deal with cornerback Darius Slay that will lower his cap number for the 2021 season by $9 million. And today, Ian Rapoport reported, that's kind of a tongue twister, Rapoport reported that Jason Kelce has agreed to a one-year deal with the Eagles that is worth $9 million. Now, the cap hit for that deal in 2021 is going to be about $4 million. Because of 4 voided years that are on the end of the contract, which is a favorite method of GMs for lowering cap hits. You can convert salary to a signing bonus and extend it over the whole duration of the contract, and then you can cut a guy later. And it lowers the cap now, and then when you cut him, it will be a bigger cap impact. And so essentially what the Eagles are doing is lowering 2021 cap numbers and kicking the bucket down the road into 2022 and 2023. There's a few more restructure targets. Most notable would be Brandon Graham. Per overthecap.com, they expect that Brandon Graham restructuring could save the Eagles about $9 million in 2021. And it's also been reported by Derek Gunn that Lane Johnson is in talks to restructure with the Eagles, which could save around $7 million. Now, the question is, why would you do this? Well, unless you've lived under a rock for the last year, you know the Eagles are in dire cap situation for the 2021 season. They were about $42 million over the projected cap. And this happened largely because of the pandemic cutting revenue and dropping the salary cap for the first time in a long time in the NFL. And so restructures and cuts were always going to happen. Now, part of this is a byproduct of pushing for that second Super Bowl. After the 2017 season, Howie, Roseman, and the Eagles went all in on the immediate Super Bowl window, and they made a lot of moves that simply kicked the can down the road in an attempt to put the best team on the field at the time. This, in a lot of ways, was always when the Super Bowl push, the check for that was going to come due. But it's bad timing with the pandemic that's seeing a lowering of league revenue and a lowering of the salary cap. And then that's making it a lot more difficult situation than it ever should have been. Given the fact that the Eagles never came close to winning another Super Bowl, we can say with hindsight it was a bad idea to push all the chips into the center of the table in such a win-now fashion. And so you're going to see a lot about restructuring, and you're going to see a lot of talk about that. But the reality is that restructuring contracts is not the sign of a good GM. Anybody can restructure. It's simply saying, I'll just kick the can down the road. I'll worry about that problem tomorrow. And that's not ideal when you are a rebuilding football team, as the Philadelphia Eagles currently are. And so there's a lot of talk about, we could just cut a lot of these older guys. We could trade them, move on, take the hits now. We'll be terrible in 2021, and then we would have all this cap space in 2022. But that's simply not realistic for a few reasons. One of the biggest reasons is you would be kneecapping a first-year head coach in Nick Sirianni and a largely brand new coaching staff. You have a defensive coordinator in Jonathan Gannon, who's never been a defensive coordinator before. You have an offensive coordinator in Shane Steichen, who is a relatively new offensive person. And so you've got all of these young coaches, bringing them in for the first time, and then to pull the rug out from under them by getting rid of all the veteran players would be doing them a disservice. You would lose your opportunity to evaluate them as coaches by putting such a pathetic product on the field. In the same vein of evaluating people, you would lose your opportunity to evaluate Jalen Hurts. The Eagles saw 3.5 games of Jalen Hurts in 2020, and it was hard to evaluate him behind such a porous offensive line with no playmakers on the field. And so it would be a travesty to get to the end of the 2021 season and still not know what you have in Jalen Hurts because you let Jason Kelce go. You let Lane Johnson go. You simply can't do that. You have to decide in 2021 if Hurts is the future or not. And so keeping some of these playmakers, keeping this veteran leadership gives you a framework to make those decisions. But perhaps the biggest reason that tanking a year was not realistic is because Howie Roseman has nowhere else left to hide. Doug Peterson is gone. Jim Schwartz is gone. All these coaches that he had a hand in hiring that he proceeded to scapegoat and leak things about, they are all gone. And they've been replaced with more coaches of his choosing. And so if 2021 and 2022 are as bad as 2020 was, the only place Howie has left to look is in the mirror. And at some point, Jeffrey Lurie would have to figure out that Howie is the biggest problem, has always been the biggest problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so it is imperative that Howie not phone in 2021 for the sake of his job security and for the sake of his first-year coaching staff. And so the Eagles look like they're going to walk away from this mess that's been created, losing only Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, and the 2 games that Deshaun Jackson plays a year. That's not bad, all things considered, being as far over the cap as they were. That bodes well for 2021, for evaluating players, for putting the best product on the field possible. But what it will cost down the road remains to be seen. It remains more important than ever that the Eagles hit on these draft picks in the upcoming draft. You have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds this year. You have the potential of 2 first-round picks next year, maybe more if you trade down from 6 overall. It is imperative that the Eagles begin to put young players on this roster that they can commit to long-term as they work their way out of salary cap hell. That's going to do it for episode number 12 of the Checkdown. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube so you don't miss the next episode. And drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about these restructures and what you think the outlook for the 2021 season is in Philadelphia.
Audio